This is Happiness Solved with America's happiness coach, Sandee Sgarlata.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I am so thrilled you're here. Happiness Solved is dedicated to giving you content that is empowering, motivational, inspirational, and of course, a dose of happiness. It's my way to give back to the world and share other people's stories. This thing called life can be challenging, and my guests share their amazing stories, wisdom, and life lessons that demonstrate anyone can choose happiness. You see, happiness is a journey, not a destination. I am Sandee Sgarlata, America's happiness coach, author of Happiness Solved. I'm also a retired U.S. national and international figure skating coach. I have a gold medal in ice dancing. I've been a certified life coach since 2004, and I've been inspiring others to shift their mindset and choose happiness for over 20 years. I am so excited to share that my next book is coming out soon. I am a co-author in the fastest growing personal development book series in the world with Jim Lutz and Jim Britt. The really cool thing is that the foreword was written by the one and only Les Brown, and for my copies, I'm on the cover with him. If you would like a free copy when it's available, email me at sandy@sandeesgarlata.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I am so grateful for you. Today's guest is Vibhor Kumar Singh. We're going to be talking about his debut book, The Billionaire and the Monk, an inspirational story about finding extraordinary happiness. You see, happiness is not an enigma for a select few, but a pearl of attainable wisdom for everyone. I'm in the middle of reading this book, and I love the contrast of a billionaire and the monk. And he's going to explain how he came up with that and what his inspiration was to write this book. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, Vibhor. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm good, Sandy, and I hope you're doing well. And it's great to be here on the show.
Yeah. So you're in India, right? What part of India are you in?
I stay in New Delhi.
Okay.
Yeah.
My social media manager is in India.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we've got a lot of people here working for
Yes.
multinational companies.
Yeah.
And
As a matter of
international.
fact, the group that the company that does all of the editing for my podcast is in India as well.
Yeah, we are really becoming the service capital for the world across knowledge domains.
Yeah, it's great. I'm just so beyond thrilled with the quality, the speed at which they do it. I mean, it's been really, really great. They're really great. So thank you. Your book, The Billionaire and the Monk, you have it behind you, but for those of you watching it, Vibhor's publicist sent me a copy, and it is such an easy read. I love that, right? That's how I write too, right? We're not trying to create some sort of literary masterpiece. It's just like just write it out so everybody can read it. And but I love this, and an inspirational story about finding extraordinary happiness. And obviously, this is Happiness Solved podcast. It's right up my alley. I love this. I can't wait to finish the book. But I like on the back of it. I love what is written on the back. What if everything you have been taught about happiness is false? What if you realize that happiness is not a goal and therefore cannot be achieved? What if you discover that it is the ordinary path that leads to an extraordinary treasure? Yeah, I love it, because that's the one question, because I am a guest on a lot of podcasts as well. It's like happiness is not a destination, right? It's a journey. It's a mindset. It's all about the mindset. So talk a little bit about that. But I also want to know, like, what inspired you to write this book, and like how did you come up with this idea?
See, I've always felt that we are about 7 billion people on this planet, right? And there are some studies which suggest that about 100 billion people, more than that, have already lived on the planet. And I'm sure that all of these, whether it is 100 billion or more, have got up every day in the morning with only one objective, that how am I going to be happy today? That
Yeah.
is something which, no matter how you define happiness, it's the only agenda why we get up every day, and that's the only thing we want to achieve or attain. Now, this is something which is essential for everyone. Yet, I believe about 99% of the people are not able to achieve it. And the simple reason for that is we don't define our own happiness. We let others define it for us. And I think that is the tragedy, and that is something which I wanted to address, that you are the one who has to define what is happiness for you. Today we are living in a typical, and I don't believe it's about today, it's always been, we are marketed happiness, right? We all believe
Hmm.
that happiness lies in, you know it's about what others tell us. If you have an apartment, it's not good enough, you have to have a penthouse. If you have a bungalow, it's not good enough, you have to have a bungalow with a big lawn, right? This is happiness the way it has been marketed to us. And most people have bought into that idea, and they live their whole life chasing that marketed ideas of happiness. And that is why they are never able to find happiness. So this is a very, I found it, I think this is a very simple way to put it, that happiness is very easy, and it's something that what you do on a daily basis that adds up to your happiness. And you don't have to have an extraordinary day, you don't have to do anything extraordinary to be happy, because you need to realize that it's happiness lies in the ordinary, it's in the ordinary things, that if you can be happy on a daily basis, you're more happy than anyone else. So this is the idea I wanted to put through in my book, and this is something which I have believed strongly. And yeah, it so happened that I was able to, with the lockdowns happening last year, I mean in 2020, I was able to put these thoughts down, and the story took shape.
I love it. And I love the fact that you use a story to get your message across
Yeah, I
because humans are storytellers, right?
yeah,
We've always
yeah.
been storytellers. And that's
And
how we learn and that's how we grow.
stories are the only thing that remain. If you are not
Yeah.
taught in a way of a story, you are never going to remember anything, because it's human nature to live in stories. As I said, we like stories because it gives us, it connects us to our very basic childhood, right? Every child loves stories, and all of us, no matter how much we grow, we love stories, because that's one thing that is the innocence of life that we continue to have in us. So that is why I thought, rather than putting it through that, do this, don't do this, I thought it was better to, put it as a story. And I think it's come
Yeah.
out to be a very good one.
I love it. I love it. So my first book I published in 2009 and it's a novel for young adult fiction. And I had the same thing. It's like because I'm a retired US national and international figure skating coach. So I've worked with a lot of kids and I wanted to get my message across. So it's kind of like it's a self-help book but in the form of a story
Correct.
because kids are not going to read that, right? And the second book was never published. It was finished, was never published. So I'm in the process of, I put the first and the second together. I'm going to update it and then finish it and get it back out there. But I love that. I love that because the story it just really resonates more when because you're making it more relatable.
Brilliant, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So why the billionaire and the monk? Was it the stark contrast that you wanted to demonstrate?
So the billionaire represents, your ambition. It represents all the material things that we want to keep in life. The monk, on the other hand, represents your thoughts, your ideas, your mind, your emotions. So that is why I thought that it was very important that people understand that the billionaire and the monk are actually all within us. There are days in which you are all about ambition, and then there are days in which you are all about reflecting. There are days in which happiness is defined by what you have won, And then there are days in which you define your happiness by what you know, what you have been able to give. So I think the billionaire and the monk for me define, and every individual has a billionaire and a monk inside. So that's why I use this, and that is why I have not named them, because I didn't want to, give them any identities apart from the fact that, they are two different thoughts.
I love that. I love that analogy. That's really great. And we do have days like that. And I think when we have those the contrast of those days, we need to embrace it. Like I was just thinking when you were talking about it, I was like, yeah, that was my day yesterday. It was all about reflection. I didn't get a lot of work done. And then that voice creeps in, oh, you should do this. And I'm like, stop. I like have to like, right? Because sometimes your mind, I'm like this
We all
high
hear
achiever.
that voice, right?
Right.
We all hear that voice that you've got to pay the bills.
Yeah. I'm a high achiever. And when I'm not operating at that level that I expect of myself, right, I start to be like, and then it was like, okay, stop. Just go with the flow today. Just go with the flow. And I just did a lot of that self-reflection. And I like to throw that in because I want the listeners to get that, like, even though I'm a happiness coach, right? I'm saying with air quotes, that doesn't mean I'm happy all the time, right? And I think that that's the biggest problem that people, they sit there and they set these expectations. Well, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or all those shoulds and should nots. And it's okay. It's okay to feel the full range of emotions. It doesn't mean that I'm not happy.
And also, that's something that, in the book, because a lot of people have got back saying that they think that the monk will have all the answers and the billionaire will have all the questions. But that's not true, because, like you correctly said, everyone has their set of problems, everyone has their set of questions. So even though, you may, to the world you may appear to be, as you just said, a happiness coach, there are days in which you yourself need someone to tell you. So that's one thing which I have covered in my book, that no one is, we are all looking for the questions, and sometimes it is more important than the answers.
So, so true. Those empowering questions. Because if you say to yourself, what's wrong with me? Your brain is going to come up with a million things of what's wrong with you, right? So we don't want to ask ourselves those questions.
Yeah, but you need to at times, you know uh, your path of self discovery doesn't happen without questions.
Exactly.
you know
Exactly.
So it's very important to know what question to ask and when to ask, because if you don't ask questions and you keep on accepting all the answers that the world is throwing at you, the world has a tremendous capability of generating noise. So you can't just let it do that.
Right. That's right. That's right. So tell me a little bit about you, because usually I start out that way, but I was so excited to talk about the book. So I want to hear your story. Like, how did you get to where you are today, and what is your background? Those kinds of things.
So I've studied at the London School of Economics. I did my masters from there, and but I came back to India in 2008. I have ever since been an entrepreneur working across sectors, and also, basically in the stock markets. And throughout this, I've realized that, you know, at the end of the day, all I want to be is happy. Right? No matter what I do, no matter where you go, what you want to do, what you eat, what you don't eat. At the end of the day, it's all about happiness. So, and for the past few years, you know, I've been I've been always wanting to tell people this, that happiness is very simple. Please, don't complicate your life. Don't make it a habit to condition your happiness, right? And somehow, but never got the time to do it. Finally, the COVID lockdowns happened, and everything came to a standstill. And that's when I thought, okay, now it's, if I don't write now, I will never write. So that's when that's when this book was born, and it has a lot of, it's It's actually got a lot of my personal experiences, because everything that I have written is something which I have learned, and it is all my perspective. So it's not necessarily the right perspective. It's not necessarily what I have said is, you know, the fundamental truth. Let's say yes, it's my perspective. It's how I have looked at and analyzed the events of my life. So it's, and that's why it's very simple, because it's something which has been written straight from what I felt, and this how I'm trying to explain it to myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you brought up perspective because after, like, I published my book came out last February of 2021, but I finished it in January of 2020. And since then, we're always learning and growing. I am anyway. And now that I've, have this podcast and I've been coaching specifically on mindset, I think happiness really comes down to your perspective, right? It's that choice. Like you started out saying, you have two choices. Every situation, there's always two choices. And happiness is the same way.
Yes, and it's very important to understand that, what you've said is happiness is your perspective,
Mhm.
not others' perspective of your happiness.
Right.
And that's where we've got it all wrong. That, we've let everyone else define what is happiness. And this is something that we have to come out from. And it's very simple actually, it's not complicated at all. I don't, there is so much complexity that has gone into, marketing happiness to us, that we have simply, surrendered to this idea that, let others define what is happiness. I can't be happy today the way I am, because the world says no, you've got to be happy when you reach that stage. And then what happens is, once you start making happiness conditional, it doesn't end, because the goalposts keep changing. You achieve one thing, then your happiness suddenly becomes something else. So then you spend the rest of your time or energy and your talent to reach that X. Then it becomes X plus Y. So it goes on. The moment you once you start this conditionality of happiness, there is no limit. And also, a lot of people think that this philosophy means that you have to be satisfied where you are. No, I think ambition is an integral part of your happiness, but you have to define your ambition. And if you say that this is what I have achieved and I should be happy, you should be happy. The problem is, we are giving our ambition to others to define. We are letting others define success for us. We are letting others define happiness for us. But we want to be independent. We want to call ourselves independent. So that is where I think, we've got it wrong.
Well, not only that, I feel like social media is defining a lot of what people do. And what happens is they compare themselves, right? Because on social media, everybody's happy. All the pictures are just happy, 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 happy. And I promise you, these people, like, because what happens is other people look at their posts and they think, oh gosh, why can't I be that happy? Or, they compare their lives to a facade, because it's really, these posts are a facade. It's not real. And when you start comparing yourself to other people, that's when, that's just a downward spiral.
So that's what I've written about, that, you have to live your life the way you want to live, and that's the easiest way to be happy. I've covered actually the social media impact on our happiness, again in the form of a story, because I think that is something which is very specific to our generation.
Yes.
People before us have not gone through this. I do not know what will happen in the future, but yes, we are the first generation that is going through this kind of a, revolutionary definition of happiness. This is very selective. This is highly selective, you know inputs that we get for our happiness. People only put out what they want to put out, but we think that that moment, that one photograph, that one click is defining their life, and so it should define our lives. So I think that's a very important topic that has to be understood by everyone, that social media is, it's it's very dangerous if you just take it at face value.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I very, very much limit my time on Facebook, and I'll have people say, they'll say, oh, I did this. I'm like, oh, you did? Well, didn't you see my post? I'm like, no, I didn't. Well, what do you mean you didn't see my? I'm like, well, sorry. I like to live my life. I can't do it on my phone. I can't sit with that phone in front of me scrolling through social media for hours on end. It's not healthy for people.
It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy actually that sometimes you walk into a restaurant and you see families, sitting on the same table, each with their phone, and that's
Or like this.
yeah. So this is an addiction, and you cannot be happy if you continue it this way. So after doing all this, if you still ask the question why you are happy, then you should know the answer. The answer lies is because you're defining it in the wrong way, and you're letting others define your happiness. So there is no way you can be happy.
That's right. That's right. I love it. So, Vibhor, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we finish up?
I think the last message or the last thing that I would like to tell anyone who's listening to this or who reads the book is that, guys, please take control of your happiness, because you are the only one who's responsible for it.
Yeah.
And there is no way, you cannot put that responsibility on anyone else.
Right.
You have to make yourself happy.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an honor to talk to you. I can't wait to read your book, and I will be sure to leave a review online as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was such a great conversation. And dare I say one more time, I love talking to people that speak my language. So you can find out how to reach Vibhor in the show notes. So thank you so much for listening today. As always, I hope that you and your family are safe and healthy, and that your lives are filled with peace, joy, and extraordinary happiness. Take care, everyone.